Have you ever wondered what the Pittsburgh Steelers could get in return if they decided to trade and move on from TJ Watt? Well, you're not going to have to wait much longer because Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns has requested a trade, a Defense Player of the Year and one of the best defensive players in the league. And his resume sounds and looks familiar just like TJ Watt's. So, whatever he goes for is more than likely what TJ Watt would go for as well. But first, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, many of the fans have been wondering, hey, TJ Watt, the Steelers right now as a team, they're not stacking up well enough to win a championship maybe anytime soon. And TJ Watt, he has not won a playoff game with the Pittsburgh Steelers in his career. And also the fans seen TJ Watt the last few games of the regular season for the last few years in a row, and he just hasn't done anything in the playoffs or towards the end of the season. So they're getting tired and they're just like, hey, what would TJ Watt go for? What would TJ Watt allow the Pittsburgh Steelers to get in return? Would it allow them to get multiple first-round draft picks? Maybe a franchise quarterback? What would it take? If the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to trade TJ Watt, what would Steelers get in return? Well, in case you didn't see today, Cleveland Browns Defensive Player of the Year, reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, has requested a trade. And the reason why this is so significant is because he plays defensive line. He's rushing the passer, he's stopping the run, he does the same thing TJ Watt does. And his resume basically stacks up with TJ Watt's. TJ Watt's is better in terms of statistics, but in terms of awards and things like that, they're basically the same. So whatever Myles Garrett is going to go for on the trade market, that's more likely what TJ Watt would go for. So that's why this is so significant. You don't have to worry about or think about, hey, if we decide to put TJ Watt up on the trade block, would we get this? Would we get that? No, we're about to find out what TJ Watt would go for because Myles Garrett is about to get traded. So, in case you didn't see, let's look at what Myles Garrett said about requesting a trade out of Cleveland, because he put like a whole update together and a whole post on social media together this morning requesting a trade out of Cleveland, in case you didn't see. So, here's what he posted. And I quote, "As a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl. And the goal still fuels me today more than ever. My goal for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man I am today. While I loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It was always been compete and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett." End quote. So, looking at this whole situation, just last week, Cleveland General Manager Andrew Berry stated that the franchise won't be listening to offers and aren't looking to trade their All-Pro, Defensive Player of the Year, and future Hall of Famer in Myles Garrett. But it seems as though Myles Garrett, he played the last card. And what was the last card? Well, that's requesting a trade and becoming the most sought after commodity on the open markets in the offseason. Because now he wants out of Cleveland and teams are going to start calling like crazy to try to get Myles Garrett on their team. And he's going to go for a huge package because he's still arguably one of the best defense players in the league, maybe top 3. So you look at this and teams are going to start calling. And the Cleveland Browns, even if they weren't planning on trading him, well, now Myles Garrett wants out. So they kind of have to, because now in you looking at a contract extension down the line, when he becomes available for one, he's not going to sign that extension. So you may as well get whatever you can for Myles Garrett while you still can before he opts to sign with a different team when he becomes a free agent. And teams are going to start loading up, giving up picks, giving up players, whatever, to try to land Myles Garrett on their team. So why am I talking about Cleveland Browns? Well, like I said, I'm talking about Cleveland Browns because this is always the TJ Watt situation. The Steelers aren't looking to trade TJ Watt. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the Steelers should look to trade TJ Watt. I'm not saying that TJ Watt wants out of Pittsburgh. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this will help set the market for TJ Watt down the road if the Steelers ever did want to trade him or ever did look to trade him. They would know what they're going to get in return for him based off this situation. And the fans would know as well. So all the fans who are curious to see, hey, TJ Watt, the Steelers should move on from him. There's no point of keeping him around if we're not winning. There's no point. Might as well move him while you can. Get whatever you can from him. Get the first round draft picks. Build your team up through the draft and get whatever you can in return. They'll have the idea of what will happen if they trade TJ Watt based off this scenario with Myles Garrett. Because when you're looking at the Myles Garrett situation, like I said, his stats, what he does on the football field, all are similar to TJ Watt. Yes, TJ Watt, you can say he's better, but some teams would maybe prefer Myles Garrett, or some teams may prefer TJ Watt. So they basically go hand to hand with each other in what they do, and I would say their market would be similar. So when looking at Myles Garrett, what was he going to go for? Is he going to go for 3 first-round draft picks? Because that may be what it takes. Will he go for two first, a second? Whatever it is, we're going to see what his value is on the market, and he's going to go for a lot. And the Browns are going to be able to get some draft picks in return. And will they stack up to be better than the defense player of the year, Myles Garrett? And ultimately, down the road, who knows? If they're able to draft his replacement in the first round, get another player in the first round, maybe get another draft pick, draft someone else, and they all turn out to be studs and turn out to be hits, then so have it. You have your replacement. You have a better team now than you did with Myles Garrett on the field. But if you miss on them, then obviously that's not a better case scenario. So when you're looking at the trade, we're going to see what it brings in, what value he brings in, and TJ Watt, if he doesn't want to play for Pittsburgh any longer, I'm not saying that he does, but down the road, if he requests a trade because the Steelers aren't winning and he wants to win the Super Bowl, well, we're going to see what his value is going to bring. And then the Steelers, if they have talks with them and mutually decide to agree to trade him away, we're going to see what he brings. So this scenario with the Cleveland Browns actually helps the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you could say, hey, one's a defense lineman, one's a defensive end, one's outside linebacker, but ultimately they're both playing off the edge. TJ Watt does get interceptions. His stats are better, if you want to put it that way. But Myles Garrett is just more loved by the media for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, we're going to see what happens here shortly. And it just seems as though everything's falling apart for the Cleveland Browns while we're still on this topic. It seems like Deshaun Watson's situation, Myles Garrett, everything just has gone wrong for the Cleveland Browns. And it's kind of sad to see, but at the same time, it's good to see because they're in the Pittsburgh Steelers AFC North Division, and it's one less team to worry about. You don't have to worry about guarding, blocking Myles Garrett anymore twice a year. So if anything, this is better for the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of offensive linemen, because you always wonder, left tackle, right tackle, we need a good offensive line to be able to block the top edge rushers like Myles Garrett. Well, now you don't have to face them twice a year, so you don't have to worry as much about that. And the game scheme for those Cleveland Browns games is going to get easier because of it. So that's another topic for a different day. But the Pittsburgh Steelers win in the situation, and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to make any moves. Don't have to do anything. Just sit back and watch. And they win in this situation because they get to look from an outside perspective what a player on their team would get on the market today. And they're not in the drama. The Cleveland Browns are in the drama. So Myles Garrett wants out, and it makes complete sense because the Cleveland Browns aren't going anywhere. The Cleveland Browns are a bad team in terms of the media talks right now because of what's going on with Deshaun Watson and everything like that. Their quarterback situation, just their whole team in general. So it makes sense why Myles Garrett wants out. They're not winning on top of it. They look like they're not going to win anytime soon. Yes, they have a good draft pick in this year's draft, but is that really going to help their team? Probably not. So their record went from making the playoffs 2 years ago to missing the playoffs by a large margin last season. So Myles Garrett, it makes sense why he wants out. And it looked like one of the best teams in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns, now are one of the worst. So Myles Garrett wants out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on this trade request. and your thoughts on this topic about, hey, this kind of sets the market for TJ Watt and what he would get if the Pittsburgh Steelers want to trade him. Are you interested in trading him if Myles Garrett goes for a large haul and you get the same for TJ Watt, or do you just want to keep TJ Watt at all costs? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis reports, everything surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason, all the rumors, everything. I'm covering it. So stay tuned for free agency, the draft, and more. Subscribe, turn notifications, and until next time, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.